Racism is a bitter business. I cannot think of any offense, with the exception of the sexual molestation of children, that is condemned more fiercely or viewed by decent people with more opprobrium and detestation. Racists are the scum of the earth. It follows then that before we call people racists or accuse groups or countries of racism, we really know what we are saying. Understanding the words racism and racist is the first consideration. I think most times we do. This century has certainly provided examples. Nazi Germany was a racist state. It was organized on the principles of hating and then exterminating, among others, Jews. That's one meaning of racism. South Africa, for much of the 20th century, was a racist state. It held as policy and law that blacks were inferior and maltreated them as citizens and human beings. That's racist.
You're a faggot Jew, ain't you?
The operations of those demented clowns in bedsheets, the Ku Klux Klan, their lynchings, whippings, and the burning cross are and were racist. Closer to home, that sodality of moral idiots we know as the Heritage Front and white supremacists are all racists and deserve to be called such and condemned. All that said, and it is quite a bit, I find myself more and more these days distressed and not a little annoyed by hearing behavior described as racist that clearly is not, and people or institutions accused of racism on the slightest provocation and on the slimmest grounds. Conflict or argument between races or ethnic groups may be disagreeable or uncomfortable, but that does not add up to racism either. To argue for a cut in immigration, for example, is not racist. To take a more flamboyant example, the case against allowing Sikh veterans to wear headgear in Legion halls may indicate some Legion veterans are out of touch, purblind, or just old stick-in-the-muds. But I doubt very much it's racist in any meaningful sense of the term. Recall the Young Street riots? Were they about outrage over the Rodney King verdict, or the stirrings of an urban underclass ground down by systemic racism? Well, actually, no, they weren't. They were a little equal opportunity vandalism, a few cheap thrills for thick heads of every persuasion. Grievance mongers and the activism bureaucracy all too often cry out that Canada is systemically racist, as if a country with laws against hate speech, equity boards and tribunals springing up like mushrooms, multiculturalism policies, more human rights commissions per square inch than anywhere on the planet, a country that freely admits 250,000 immigrants a year, and a country which at times seems to be on an eternal sensitivity training course, could ever be linked or identified or equated with pre-war Germany or pre-Mandela South Africa. To call Canada racist is to debase the word racist. It is either a calculated insult or a piece of ignorance pure and simple. Bleed the word racism of its meaning by overuse and sloppy application. Inflate every trivial act of distemper into a racist slur. Confound simple bad manners and pure ignorance with acts of race hatred, and racism is everywhere and nowhere at the same time. I'm Rex Murphy.
Well, last week, Rex's rant on Bill Clinton provoked some of you. Predictably, Rex wasn't very flattering about the U.S. president, and neither were some of you about Rex's point of view.
Clinton is the boomer president, which is to say he reached the darker valleys of middle age without ever growing up. A 48-year-old adolescent with mommy for a wife.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Who is this guy? Rex Limbaugh? Rush's twisted younger brother or something? I found his comments to be very obnoxious, inflammatory, and basically really stupid. Especially that bit about Hillary being his mother. I suppose that's because she's a woman who knows what she's doing. Rex must have a problem with that. Not too cool.
Rex Murphy may look like one of the Three Stooges, but his commentary on Bill Clinton was excellent. Congratulations to the CBC for allowing at least one politically incorrect commentator on the air.
He owns a cat, and he's named it Socks. Real presidents own a dog.
I've never enjoyed either looking at Rex Murphy or hearing his cynical observations, which he seems to think show a superior critical ability. But he's really blowing his cover with the comments on President Clinton's cat. Real men, he sneers, have dogs. Real men, Mr. Murphy, don't need someone to give orders to and to dominate.
And from an animal hospital in Fort Erie, Ontario, veterinarian Steve Tonez writes, putting down President Clinton's cat's socks is just going too far. Cats are wonderful pets with incredible personality and individuality. You sounded far too macho to be from Newfoundland.
Normally, I admire the journalism of Rex Murphy. I found his recent piece on President Clinton a bit of character assassination bordering on the vitriolic. I believe anyone could comment upon Mr. Murphy's suits or his accent, but neither of those would really be news or newsworthy. Mr. Murphy, you really can do better.
Well, I've got a cat, too, and Rex is going to be hearing from me. If you'd like to respond to Rex or anything else on CBC Primetime, we have a toll-free line. That number is 1-800-565-1422. Please stay with us now. When CBC Primetime returns, Peter will have the latest on tonight's top news stories.